So we'll start with the presentation, today's lecture. Please have a copy with you so that we can note down the important points. Have a copy and pen with you. Any one of you can unmute and tell me whether we have whether this PPT is visible or not. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I welcome you all for the today's lecture of computer architecture and organization. As this lecture will help you for the preparation of GATE examination, we will start with the very first, that is how many marks it carries. So computer architecture and organization basically carries 8 to 11 marks. It can vary. The question can be either 2 marks question or it can be either 1 marks question. The thing is that computer organization, architecture and organization seems to be difficult for everyone. But when you will analyze the question, you will find that these questions are very easy to attempt, and many of the student ignores this subject as it seems to be difficult. But if you prepare it well, if you know the formulas very well, you will be able to solve these questions very easily. And these questions are very easy. The question based on computer architectures are very easy. Again, the books that you can refer for computer architecture and organization is the book by Hamacher. Many of the students have referred for the RTMNE exam by by this book also. And there is one more book again which is very important, that is Computer System and Architecture by Morris Mono. So these two books are very important. Then you can also refer the video lectures by NPTEL. These lectures are also very important. And if anyone have decided to go for GATE, and they can also join the NPTEL courses, that Swayam courses on computer architecture. Again, you can get many a clear idea about the subject by joining that courses that are offered by Swayam NPTEL. So this is what about marks and books. This is what the syllabus for computer architecture and organization, the important topics. The questions based on these topics will be asked. The topic number 1 is machine instruction and addressing mode. The next is ALU data path and control unit. Third one is instruction pipelining, memory hierarchy, and input output interface. You can find all these topics, you can find the chapters regarding all these topics in both the books: machine instruction, ALU, instruction pipeline, memory hierarchy, and IO interface. You will find the topic for all these in that books. So let's come to the topic now. Whoever is having any idea about computer architecture. Everyone is having the idea, but whatever you are having till now, just free it out and assume that you don't know anything about computer architecture and organization. So again, we will today's topic is based on machine instruction and addressing mode. We will focus on machine instructions. So we'll start with the functional units of computer system. Whenever we bring a computer to our home, we know that we are dealing we will need a mouse. We know that we will need a keyboard. Then there will be a processor, there will be a monitor. So we will divide each and every part of that computer. We will divide each and every part. So let's divide. So we have separated the processor. We will separate the processor. We will separate the input output unit. What are input output units? These are nothing but the keyboard, mouse, then a monitor. These are the input output units. Whereas our processor is again one of the fundamental unit of our computer. So basically, you can divide you can divide your computer system into three parts. You can divide your computer system into three parts: first, second, and the third one. The very first part can be considered as input output part. Input output part. The second part is the memory part, and the third part is processor part. So basically, think that every computer is made up of these three things: that there will be input output unit, every computer will have a memory and a computer will have a processor. So for this point of time, only imagine that a computer is made up of only three units, only three parts. Getting? So now we'll see what is the job of each and every unit. What is the job of each and every unit? Let's start with the processor. Let's start with the processor. Imagine that here is a human being. A human being who is able to do any task. Who is able to do any task, who can perform. Or if I give you any task, you people any task, if I told you to perform addition of two numbers, you are having your brain. You are having your brain where you can calculate, where you are able to perform addition of two numbers, where you can add the two numbers. Your brain is having that much capability to add the two numbers, right? So consider that analogous to a human body's brain, the computer processors will work. The computer processor will work. So what can I say? What is the job of processor? The job of processor is to perform the functions, to execute something. Getting? So processor is having the ability to execute something. It will execute. It can execute. It has the brain. So brain of our computer is residing inside the processor. The one who is responsible for doing any task is inside the processor. So we know the important part is processor. Important part one is processor. So again, come to the example of a human body where we have our brain as a processor. And this brain is capable of adding the two numbers, multiplying the two numbers, and any other function. It can perform any function. Now, when I say yes, ABC or PQR, any person, I ask them to add the two numbers. What will you do? You will in turn ask me that, ma'am, which numbers I have to add? Which numbers I have to add? That means you are asking for the input. You are asking for the input. You are asking that which numbers I need to add. So I will tell you that add 2 plus 4. I will tell you add 2 plus 4. And then you will, after taking these two input, after taking this 2 and 4 as an input, you will add them. You will add them. Right? So one you will take first input, when you will take the very first number. I am telling you that 2 is the number, 2 is the very first number. What you will do? You will store this 2, you will store this 2 in your memory. In your memory. And now you are waiting for the second input. Now you are waiting for the second input. You have stored one input in your brain, yeah, in your memory. You have stored your the first number in your memory. You are not adding, you are not performing the calculation because you have got only one number. You can add the two numbers, so you need two input. So first you have taken 2 as an input. You have stored it in your memory. You have stored that number in your memory. Then I am giving you the next number, that is 4. Again you have stored that number in your memory. In your memory. And after taking both the inputs, now your brain is performing the addition. Right? Now your brain is performing the addition. So it is performing the additions. Once addition has been done, you got the input that 6 is the answer. 6 is the answer. Getting or not? So what that person will do? That person will convey me, whoever XYZPQR will convey me the output. That person will convey me the output that, madam, output for or the addition of the two number is 6. The addition of the two numbers is 6. Getting or not? So similar to the same thing, we have, imagine that according to our body, we have the different units of computer system. We need input output unit, we need input output unit, we need memory, we need processor. So now can you roughly tell me the job of input output unit? Yes. What is its job? Its job is to take the data, to present the data. Input output unit, either to take the data or to present the data. What is the job of memory? To store that data. To store that data. Job of memory is to store that data. And the job of processor is to execute that data. Execute or operate on that data that you have received from processor. That you have received from processor. So we got the numbers from input output unit. We stored in our memory. We stored in the memory. From memory we take that input inside the processor, and inside that processor we perform addition. We perform addition operation, and once addition is done, we are giving the output back to the memory, and from the memory we are giving it to output unit. We are giving it to output unit. So we have analyzed the job of each and every unit roughly. Roughly. We have seen what is the job of input output, we have seen what is the job of memory, we have seen what is the job of processor. Now when it comes to computer system, when it comes to computer system, these units have again the zoom view or the detailed view. So till now we have seen that processor, the only one processor. We are saying that processor is able to execute the instruction. But processor is again having different component. This is our processor. This is our processor. This processor is again having two different components. Number one is arithmetic and logic unit, and the next is control unit. The next is control unit. So what is the job of arithmetic and logic unit? As the name suggests, arithmetic and logical functions, arithmetical functions. So the unit Who is capable of performing addition? Who is the unit who is capable of performing the operations, mathematical operation, is that arithmetic and logic unit. Is that arithmetic and logic unit. That means calculations will be done in the processor side. Definitely, it will be done in the processor side. But in that processor, who will responsible for that arithmetic and logic unit? Who will be responsible for performing arithmetic operations? That is ALU. Then, what is the job of control unit then? What is its job? If arithmetic and a logic unit is performing all the operation, then what is the job of control unit? Let's see that when I'm taking the input from the input device, I'm taking the input from the input device and I'm storing it in a memory, and from memory I'm taking the data into the processor. So that means all these units, all these input unit, output unit, memory unit, then arithmetic and logic unit, these all units are coordinating with one another. They are talking with one another. They are communicating with one another. And what is the job of control unit? Is control unit always says that at a time only two units can be active. That means only two units can communicate. Only two units can communicate. Either either input and memory, if they are communicating, if input and memory unit is communicating, then all should be stopped. All should be stopped. All should be idle. What about other? If arithmetic and logic unit is performing any operation and it is giving the data after performing the addition, if that result is to be stored in memory, then this my processor and memory is communicating right now. Processor and memory is communicating right now. So what will be done? That this input and output unit should not do anything. Should not do anything. Getting or not? So the job of control unit is to monitor all the things. Monitor all the things. It will have a control over all the units. It will not let all the units to communicate at a time, so that there will be traffic, so that there will be speed will be slower. So job of control unit is to control all the units. Control all the units. Let's say if I'm reading from the memory, if I want to take the data from my memory, I want to perform some operation, so I have stored 2, I have stored 4 in this memory. So if I want to take that data from memory to the processor, then control unit will generate the job of control unit is to generate a signal. It will generate a signal to each and everyone that yes, everyone, all unit, please stop, because I am now performing a read operation. I am not now performing a read operation. So memory read operation is going on, so all need to be stopped. If I'm storing the data 6 in the memory, then job of control unit is control unit will notify all the units. It will notify all the units that yeah, whatever you are doing, stop right now, because now now the processor is performing the right operation. The right operation. Getting? So the job of control unit is to generate signals. Is to generate signal. What is the job of generating signals? Job of generating signal is to monitor or to control all the units. It will control all the units so that no more than two units cannot be active at the same time. So this is what the functional units of computer system. Next we will see what is von Neumann architecture. What von Neumann architecture says that if I'm assembling a computer, let's say I'm assembling the devices. I'm assembling the devices. Von Neumann architecture says that a memory is responsible for Von Neumann architecture says that a memory is responsible for storing the data as well as the storing the data as well as the instruction. Remember this line. Von Neumann architecture has one principle. What it says? It says that my memory will not only store the data, but it will also store the instructions. So we have not seen till now what is instruction. We will see this statement later on. So before looking into the program or into this von Neumann architecture, come to this program. So here you can see one program is there which is in C language. We have written a program in C language. Here you can see I have assigned two numbers. I have assigned a number A. I have created a variable A and I have created a variable B. A and B are the two variables. I have assigned the value 1 to A and 2 to B. And here I am performing the addition of two numbers A plus B, and I am storing the result back in A. And here I am printing it with the help of printf function. I'm printing the data that is A. So this program is written in which language? This program is written in C language. Is C language. I want that my computer should perform addition of two numbers. So the first thing that a programmer or a computer science engineer has to do is he has to write a program. He has to write a program. A program. Whatever you will write, that will be executed by computer, because a computer cannot perform the things by itself. A computer cannot perform the things by itself. If you want that my computer should do A plus B, then we have to write a program. We have to write a program. This is our program to perform A plus B. If you want that my computer should do multiplication, then again you have to write a program. Again you have to write a program. Whatever command you give to the computer will do that command only. Computer will not do any other task by its own. I want that the computer should do addition, then I'm writing the program for addition of two numbers. If I say that perform the multiplication, then it will do multiplication. It will do multiplication. Getting? So a programmer can write a program. A programmer can write a program either in the high level language, either in the high level language or in the assembly level language or in the machine level language or in the machine level language. So to write a program, we know what is the program. Program is nothing but what? If I want to perform if I want that a program, a computer should do some task, I need to give them instruction, I need to give it the command. So either you write the command in high level language, you can write the command in high level language, or you can write the command in assembly level language, or you can write the command in machine level language. Machine level language. So programs can be written into high level, assembly level, or machine level. What is high level language? High level language are the language which are English like language. English like language. English like languages means those where the language in which user feels very easy to write a program. So it is very easy to write a program in C language. It is very easy to write a program in C++. It is very easy to write a program in Java language because the language is a English level language. The language is English level language. Whereas when it comes to machine level language, the entire thing, the entire program is actually in the form of zeros and ones. Zeros and ones. So that means int will have its binary representation zeros, main will have its binary representation in this 1100. So do you feel it easy to remember this code for int? Do you feel it is very easy to have the binary representation of main, that how can we write main in one in the form of ones and zeros? No, it is very difficult. It is very difficult to write a program in machine language. We cannot write a program in machine language with the help of zeros and ones. It is very difficult. So another language, another form of language that can be used to give instruction or to give command to the program is assembly level language. What is assembly level language? Again, it is similar to high level. It is english like it is having english like keywords, but this level language is in the form of mnemonics. It is in the form of mnemonics. What is mnemonics? Mnemonics are nothing but the small keywords. Let's say if here in this you are writing that add you are writing a equal to a plus b, you know that plus symbol is used to add is used to perform addition. But in assembly language level language, if I want to perform such addition, I will have an instruction, let's say add. I can have an instruction, let's say add. So this add instruction is a mnemonic, or you can say a symbolic name for addition, to perform addition operation. If I want to perform multiplication, I can have a mnemonic that is mul. If I want to perform division, I can have a mnemonic that is div. If I want to perform subtraction, I can have a mnemonic in assembly level language as sub. Getting? So a language in the form of such mnemonics, a language which is in the form of such mnemonics is called as assembly level language. Is called as assembly level language. So whatever you will deal in computer architecture and organization is nothing but the program, but in the which language? Assembly level language. That means we will see the program, we will give the commands to the computer, but in assembly level language, in the form of mnemonics. These mnemonics are also called as instructions. So what is instructions? Instruction is nothing but a command in the form of mnemonics. Let's say add, let's say mul, let's say div, let's say sub. So these are the instruction. So we were discussing actually the von Neumann architecture. What von Neumann architecture says? Von Neumann architecture says that your instruction and your data will be stored in the same memory. So memory will hold the data as well as the instruction. So let's say here I am writing that add a equal to a plus b. How can I write this in the form of assembly level language? I can write here add, then here I'm writing b comma a. What does this instruction will do? This instruction will actually add the content of b to a, and it will store the result back in a. So here you will see that this is my instruction. To add b, a plus b, and store the result in b. But where are these operands? Where is the value of b? Where is the value of a? So let's say this instruction is stored here. This is my memory, and my memory is having the instruction add. Here I have stored the instruction add b comma a. So in this memory, the very first thing, I have stored the instruction. Similarly, von Neumann architecture says that your memory will not only store the instruction, but this will also store the data. So that means where somewhere in my memory I will somewhere in my memory I will have B and I will have A. So value of B is 2 and value of A is 1. So again look here, what my memory is carrying. My memory is carrying this instruction. I can divide this. I can say that this is instruction, this is instruction, and data this is data this is data. So memory is able to hold the data as well as instruction. Both will reside inside the memory. Both will be there inside the memory. Getting or not? So what is the job of memory? Job of memory is to hold what? Data as well as instructions. So again, let's come to the von Neumann architecture. Von Neumann architecture means activity in a computer is governed by the instruction. That means whatever activity you want that a computer should perform, some this task or this task or any task, addition, subtraction, you have to tell it. That means programmer has to specify it. How a programmer will specify? With the help of programs. What is program? A program is nothing but a set of instructions. So every activity, a single activity, a small activity in a computer is being executed by with the help of instruction. Then to perform a task, we have an appropriate program consisting of list of instruction, and that program is stored in the memory. Along with the program what we have, data to be used as operands are also stored in the memory. Getting what is data, getting what is instruction. That means memory is not only holding the instruction, memory is not only holding the instruction, but it is also holding the data on which to operate, on which to operate. That is the basic von Neumann architecture. We will see one of the example of a typical instruction, that how assembly level language instruction looks like. Here you can see that we have one add instruction which is adding loca comma r0. Now what is loca and what is r0, that we will see later on. For the time being, imagine, just have one thing in your mind, that if I have any words, if I have any data in if my operand is in the form of a variable, let's say sum, let's say num, let's say n, or a b, the way we create variables in our C program, right? We can have a variable named as a, we can have a variable named as c, we can have a variable named as c, we can have a variable named as num, we can have a variable named as sum. So all these represents memory location. All these represents what? Memory location. So here what I want that perform the addition operation, but to whom to add? The number one operand is loca means what? Again, memory location, memory location. And the next operand here is r0, that is a register which resides in the processor. What are these register, what is its job, that we will see later. Every time whenever we have instruction in this form, the instruction actually performs adding loca with r0, adding the content of loca with r0, and storing the result back in r0. Getting? That is the job of add the operand at memory location a to in a register r0 in the processor. So loca, if I have a variable like loca, I can have a, or I can have b, I can have c, I can have num. That means all these represents what? Memory location. All these represents memory location. Then we have r0, that r0 is nothing but a register in processor. Place the sum result in r0. The original content of LOC are preserved. That means the content of LOC, this memory location, are not changed. But which is going to change? Since we are storing the result, we are performing what? LOC A plus R0, and we are storing the result back where in the R0. So whose content will be modified? The content of R0 will be modified, but the content of LOC A will not be modified. So the original content of LOC A are preserved as it is, whereas R0 is overwritten. We have seen this instruction also. We have seen how the memory can store instruction as well as data. Next, we'll see how the entire things are connected. Next, we will see how these entire things are connected to everyone with the help of connection between the processor and the memory. So, again, very important, we have seen in the previous diagram, we have roughly categorized that we have that every computer is having memory, it is having, every computer is having processor, and it is having memory. So we will have a closer look at connection between the processor and the memory. Previously we have seen that there were only basically three units. There was input output unit, there was memory unit, there was processor unit. So three units were there: input output, memory, and processor. But now we will have a zoom look at processor side. We will have a zoom look at processor side. What is the job of processor, or what are the different elaborated version of processor is? So a processor is basically having two units: control unit and ALU unit. Control unit and ALU unit. In addition to that, it is having many registers. It is having many registers. What is the job of registers? Registers are actually a fast memory device. Are a fast memory device. Fast memory device. These registers are the fast memory devices. So my processor side is having number of registers, number of fast memory devices. And what I call that fast memory, small and fast memory devices, I call it them as registers. I call them as registers. I call them as registers. So these registers are fast memory devices which are able to hold the information, which can store the data temporarily, So my processor, this is my processor side. This is my processor side. My processor is having many different registers. Here you can see one register is MAR. This MAR stands for memory address register. Memory address register. The next register is MDR, that is memory data register. The next register is MDR, which stands for memory data register. The next register is program counter. The next register is program counter. Again, it is a special purpose register. A special purpose registers. Then we have IR, which stands for instruction register. The next is instruction register. Then we have a series of number of general purpose registers. We are having a series of number of general purpose registers. So we are having these general purpose registers over here. You can have n number of general purpose registers ranging from R0 to Rn minus 1. Ranging from R0 to Rn minus 1. So we'll see the job of each and every register in detail. Let's start with the very first, that is program counter. Let's start with the very first, that is program counter. The job of program counter. Program counter is a special register whose job is to hold the address of, always hold the address of next instruction. Always hold the address of next instruction. So program counter will always hold the next address instruction. Let's say my processor is executing something. So now what next I need to perform, its address will be specified in the program counter. Then we have IR register. The job of IR register is to hold the current instruction. Current instruction. The instruction which is currently getting executed, such instruction is stored in IR. Will be holded. The current instruction to be executed, or the instruction which is currently executed, resides in IR register, in the I instruction register. So the job of program counter is it will hold the address of next instruction, whereas IR will hold the current instruction which is getting executed. Then we have two registers, MAR and MDR. You can note it down. The job of each and every register. The job of MAR is go to the address specified by these register. That means this memory address register will always hold the address, where I need to go into the memory, where we need to go into the memory. So if I want to take the data from the memory, every time there will be only one register who is responsible for moving towards memory side. And who is that? That is memory address register. The job of memory address register is to jump to the memory, go to the memory. Now again we are having many addresses over here. Now where I need to go to the memory, that address will be specified in this MAR register. MAR will go to that memory and it will take the data and it will give it to MDR, that is memory data register. It will give it to whom? It will give it to memory data register. It will give it to the memory data register. So whatever data we have fetched means we have taken, we have got. So whatever data we have got from the memory, that fetched data will there be stored in MDR. Will there be stored in MDR. Getting? So you can see that MAR is single directional. Single directional means every time it will give that, or it will perform only, it will only perform fetching. It will only perform fetching. It will never have any data from the memory into the MAR. So it will never have the data, but who will have the data? MDR is responsible for getting the data. So whatever data is read by MAR, that data will be stored in MDR. So whatever data is given from MAR, that will be stored in MDR. Getting or not? So that is the job of MAR and MDR. Again, then we have number of registers ranging from R0 to Rn minus 1. We have seen what is the job of control unit. Job of control unit is to perform read operation, write operation, generate signal. If any interrupts are there, then that can be handled by this control unit. That will be handled by this control unit. Then we have ALU. If the instruction, if the instruction is holding add instruction, then this add instruction requires ALU to perform addition. Then IR instruction will give that data to ALU to perform addition operation. Getting how that entire connection is getting executed, how that entire process is being executed. Anyone facing any difficulty, or anyone thinks that am I going too fast, they can notify me so that I will slow down. Everything is going correct, the flow is good, whether I should slow down my lecture. So that was the important part. Okay, so I assume that everyone is okay with the speed. Next we will see the each and every registers in detail. We have seen instruction register. So now you itself can tell me what is the job of instruction register now. To hold the current instruction, जो instruction अभी execute हो रही है वो instruction कहाँ रहेगी? Instruction register में. अब इसके बाद जो इंस्ट्रक्शन मैं एग्जीक्यूट करना चाहती हूँ उसका एड्रेस किसके पास रहेगा? प्रोग्राम काउंटर में. जनरल पर्पस रजिस्टर्स का काम क्या है? होल्ड करना डेटा टेम्पररी डेटा होल्ड करना. मेमोरी एड्रेस रजिस्टर का काम क्या है? मेमोरी में जाना और एड्रेस पे जो डेटा है उसे रीड करना. मेमोरी एड्रेस रजिस्टर का काम क्या है? उस रजिस्टर में जो एड्रेस दिया हुआ है उस एड्रेस पे जाना और वो डेटा रीड करना. मेमोरी डेटा रजिस्टर का काम क्या है? मेमोरी एड्रेस रजिस्टर ने जिस एड्रेस पे जाके जो डेटा रीड किया उस डेटा को लेके आना कहां पर? एमडीआर में. सो एमडीआर इज मेमोरी डेटा रजिस्टर. सो नाउ everyone is comfortable with all the registers: instruction register, program counter, general purpose register, and MAR and MDR. So again, we will see the entire execution, how the entire execution takes place. So if I'm saying that we have now seen that all instructions will reside where? In the memory. Instruction will reside in the memory. Who will execute these instructions? Processor will execute these instructions. Processor will execute. So we have different registers over here in the processor. We have number of registered in the processor, and we have number of instruction in these. We have number of instructions stored in the memory. So if I want to execute this instruction, its address will be placed in program counter. Once this program counter finish the execution of its current instruction, program counter will be incremented by 1. So that means ultimately program counter will identify that if this is my current, if the next instruction is this, now after executing this instruction, the next instruction to be executed will be the next one. So program counter increments always increment its content. Program counter always increment its content sequentially, that is one after the another. Every time it will it will get incremented by 1. Now, now again, let's see. This is we will have a zoom version of memory. Let's have a zoom version of memory. So this memory is holding the instruction add instruction. This memory is holding the add instruction, add a comma b, add a comma b. Then we are having the next instruction, let's say sub instruction. Then we are having the sub instruction. Then we are having other instruction over here. And we are having, since our memory is able to hold the instruction as well as the data. So these are instruction, and this is my data. This is A, this is A, and this is B. So value of A is here is 10 and value of B here is 20. So how the entire execution takes place, that we will see that we will see now. Again, initiate everything. Let's start with the 0. What I want to perform, which instruction I want to perform. I want to perform addition. So this first instruction is, let's say this first instruction is placed at an address 1000. The second instruction is placed at an address 1001. The next is 1000. The next address is 1002. Similarly, A means 1000. Let's say it is 1005. Let's say it is 1006. 1006. So a memory is having the data, along with it it is having the address, or it is having the address. So memory is having the address. So let's start. What processor wants to do? Processor wants to execute this instruction. If processor wants to perform this instruction, whatever data is currently executing is let's say anything is executing in IR, we are not worried about it, but we are worried about the next instruction. What next instruction I want to execute? I want to execute this add instruction. So what is its address? Its address is add is 1000. So this 1000 will get loaded. This program counter will hold the address of instruction to be executed. So program counter will hold the address, that is 1000. Why 1000? Because now the next, whatever currently I am executing now, after finishing, once IR finish executing its operation, next instruction what that I want to perform is addition of A and B. And this instruction is in the memory. But at which address? At 1000 address. So program counter will hold this 1000. Getting? So now tell me whether my instruction is in the memory or in the processor. The instruction is in the memory, not in the processor. Processor is only having its address. So what processor will do? The next step that processor will do is, processor will give its content to this memory address register. whatever address, the address of next instruction will be given to MAR. So that means the MAR will now hold the value 1000, will now hold the value 1000. What is this 1000? 1000 is nothing but the address of the memory, and the job of MAR register is to hold the address, memory address register. That means the register which can only hold the address, which cannot hold the data, it can only hold the address. So program counter will give its address to MAR, and program counter will itself increments its content by 1. So earlier my content was 1000, now it will increment by 1. Now the content of program counter is 1001. That means once this instruction gets executed, the next instruction to be executed will be this instruction at an address 1001. So program counter will be incremented every time, it will incremented by 1. Every time it will be incremented by 1. So MAR is holding, now the MAR is holding 1000, and now MAR is holding 1000, and program counter is holding after incrementing, what it is holding now, program counter is now holding 1001. 1001. Now what MAR will do? What MAR will do? What is the job of MAR? To go to the address, to go to the address. So it will go into the memory. MAR will go into the address given by in its register. What is the address given in its register? The address given is 1001, so it will go to 1001. It will go to 1001. 1000, it will go to 1000. What is the data at an address 1001? The data is add a comma b. So it will take that data and it will give it to whom? It will give it to MDR. It will give it to whom? It will give it to MDR. So data at address 1001 will be given to MDR, and that means now the value stored in MDR is what? Now the value stored in MDR is what? Now MDR is holding add instruction. Now it is holding add a comma. Now it is holding add a comma b. A comma b. So the actually processor wants to execute this instruction. The instruction was earlier in the memory because memory cannot perform operation. The one who can perform operation is processor. So I need to take the data from the memory and I need to load it into the processor. So now this instruction which was earlier in my memory, now that instruction is being loaded where in the MDR. What MDR will do? MDR is now holding the instruction which is to be executed. MDR will give this instruction where to whom? It will give this instruction to the IR. It will give this instruction to the IR. So now this MDR data, that is add a comma b, will now be transferred to the IR. Now IR will decode this instruction. Decode this instruction means it will read the instruction. What is there in IR now? IR says that add IR says add a comma b. IR says add a comma b. So IR has to perform addition of two numbers. IR has to perform addition of two numbers. But again, the first operand A, where is this operand? This operand is again in the memory. That means this is not in our processor side. This is not in our processor side. Again, the next operand B, where is this B? Again in the memory. This A is also in the memory. This B is also in the memory. So again, IR will give the address A. IR will give the address A to the MAR, because the one who is responsible to go to the memory is only one, that is MAR. MAR. So now MAR will hold what? The address, that is A. Now MAR will hold A. Again MAR will go to the memory location A and it will take the value data. This 10 will be loaded again in MDR. Again this MDR will give this value to IR. So now add 10. Add 10 is now loaded. Again, what is the next number? Next number is B. Is it in the processor? No. Again, it is in the memory. So IR will give the address to where again? To whom? Again, it will give this B address to the MAR. MAR will go to that B address. It will go to this B address and this data will be readed. This data will be taken into MDR and now it will give this to IR. So now the instruction is has been decoded completely. We have got the operand A, we have got the operand B, and now we need to perform addition. But IR cannot perform addition. Who can perform arithmetic operation? ALU. So IR will give this addition operation to the ALU and ALU perform the addition, that is 10 plus 20, and it will store the result back in B and it will give the result 30. 30 to whom? Again to the IR. Again to the IR. If I want to store the result, again I will give it to MAR. So once this instruction gets completely executed, PC will be incremented. This 1001 address will be given to this and PC will be incremented by 1. So now it will be having 1002. This is what the entire execution of an instruction, that how the instruction gets executed. So program resides in memory through input output devices. PC points to the first instruction. Content of PC are transferred to MAR. Read signal sent to memory. First instruction is read out. MDR transferred to IR. Then IR will decode the instruction. Then after this, ALU will get the operands. Both the operands will be taken, perform the operations in ALU, store the result back. This is the typical operating steps. The next is the memory and the processor were executing smoothly. They were executing properly. Here was my memory and here was my processor. Both were communicating very smoothly. And who was having the control over it? Control unit was monitoring the entire operation. Control unit was monitoring the entire operation. So the job of control unit was to generate the signal. So these two units were active at the same time. So whatever now is getting executed, let's say if someone switched off the computer system, or if someone if any if anyone what you can say, if anyone put down that, or if anyone take out the keyboard, if anyone take out the mouse, then what happens? Immediately we get a pop-up. Get a pop-up if any new device gets inserted. If I insert a pen drive into my computer, I get a notification because since two something was executing, two units were active at the time, but because of any input output device, these input output device interrupted the communication between these two. Input output device interrupted the communication between these two, terminated its execution. They terminated its execution. So such kind of terminating the execution, a smooth execution between the two units, can be done by input output interrupts. Interrupts are the actions which are having priority over these two. So if any interrupts occur, control unit, it is the job of control unit to handle these interrupt. If that interrupt is a low priority interrupt means that the any Intermediate action, if someone switched off the computer system, then it will not say that I am yet to download the file, do not switch off, I will not switch off. No, switch off these computer system is having the highest priority. So control unit will decide that whether that interrupts are having low priority, whether that interrupts are having high priority. If the interrupts are having high priority, then they will be entertained first. Instead, they both these two will be terminated, and this will be entertained first. But if my interrupt is a low priority interrupt, then my command will be this, my process will be executed first, and this low then, and after this interrupt will be executed. That is the job of interrupts. So we'll see, a normal execution of a program may be preempted or terminated by some device if they require some urgent servicing. Such kind of process is called as interrupts. So normal execution of a current program must be interrupted. The device raises the interrupt signal. We have interrupt service routine. Again, once that interrupt has been serviced, then it will again come to the normal execution. So this is what the entire execution of instruction. Next we will see the bus structure. Next we will see the bus structure. What is bus? So bus is nothing but a connecting device. Bus is a connecting device which will connect the different units. Which will connect the different units. So we are having here input unit, we are having here output unit, we are having memory, and we are having processor, and we are having a bus. What is bus? A bus is nothing but a connecting line, a single connecting line which will connect all the devices to all the units. This will connect the devices to all the units. So this is input unit, this is output unit, this is memory, and this is our processor. So we have a single bus over here where all the units are connected, and at a single point of time only two devices can be active. So let's see what are memory location, addresses and operations. Imagine that a memory, every time whenever I say memory, imagine that a memory is always able to, a memory is made up of number of small semiconductor cell. A memory is made up of small semiconductor cells, that is ones and zeros, small semiconductor cell. Now each cell is capable of storing only one bit of information. Either it can store 0 or it can store 1. So in a cell I can store either 1 or I can store either 0. So what happens in reality, that if I will have only one bit information, that one bit information is of no use to me. But if I will group them, then it can give me some important information. Let's say if I have to write 5, how I can write 5 in binary? I can write 5 in binary as 101. So how many bits I have grouped? I need 3 bits. How can I write 16 again? How can I write 8? How can I write 8 again? I need to write, I have to uh, group the bits. So grouping the bits is must. We cannot store the information, we cannot store the information, or we cannot have the information using only one single bit. We need to group the bits. So grouping the bit in computer architecture is called as word. Grouping the bits in a computer architecture is called as a word. Is called as word. So here I have a group of 8 bits. Here I have a group of 8 bits. So I can call it as word 1. Here I have a group of another 8 bits. I can call it second word. I can call it second word. I have next group of 8 bits. I can call it third word. Third word. So a memory consists of v- group of group of n number of bits, and that is called as word. And a word can have a word length. What is word length? Number of bits in a group is called as word length. So what is the word length in this example? The word length is 8. If I'm grouping 16 bit, and I can have a word of having word length of 16, I can have a word of word length 32. 32, what is word length? Group of bits. So here I am having a group of 16 bits, here I am having a group of 32 bits. I can have a group of 8 bits also. So here my next word. This is my next word. So group of bit, it's called as word. Again, each word, this is my first word, my second word, my ith word, and my last word. Each word is having some address. Each word is having some address. So that means this word, this data, this group of n number of bit is having some address. So address can be either 1001, 1002, 1003. So it is like we are having a colony. We are having a colony where we are having different homes, or we are having plots. And to each plot, we have a plot number. We have a plot number, right? So assume that plot number as an address. Assume that plot number as an address. So now we understood that each word has an address, and each word has group of bit, and this is called as, and here we have an example of 32-bit word length starting from B0, B1 up to B30 to B31. But these memory are always called as byte addressable. Byte addressable means what? Instead of calling it 32-bit, I will call it as 4 byte, or these are my 4 bytes. These are my 4 bytes. So it is byte addressable. It is byte addressable. So I am having 4 bytes. I can access 4 bytes at a time. A group of 8 bits. Next, if if again, this is very very important from the get point of view. If I am having number of some number of bits, if my memory is 24 bit memory, then I can calculate how many memory locations I can have. Note it down, this question is very very important, that if I have a word length, if I have the word length, that means I know the number of n number of bits, that if my word length is 16, then how many memory locations, again this is a gate question, how many memory locations I can have? It is calculated by 2 raised to power, then it will have 2 raised to power k memory location if I am having k number of bits. If I am having k number of bits, then the total memory locations will be 2 raised to the power k, starting from 0 to 2 raised to power k minus 1. Starting from 0 to 2 raised to power k minus 1. Let's say there can be an example like I have a 24-bit memory. 24-bit memory means what? My word length is having 24-bit. If my word length is 24-bit, then how many memory locations? I am having the word, this is my word length. This is my word length. Word length is how many? How much? It is 24-bit. Then how many memory locations I can have can be calculated by 2 raised to power 24. 2 raised to power 24. That means from 0 to from 0 to 2 raised to power 24 minus 1 will be the answer. Getting? This is very very important. Again, note down the two notations, that 1 kilobyte is nothing but 2 raised to power 10 and 1 terabyte is nothing but 2 raised to power 40. You can note it down. This is very very important, that if word length is given, how can you calculate the number of memory locations? So again, we are having addresses. The addresses can be either big endian assignment or little endian assignment. Big endian assignment means where every time my byte addresses ends with a bigger number, that is byte 0, byte 1, byte 2 and byte 3. Next byte 4, byte 5, byte 6 and byte 7. Either we can have the addresses in this format like 3210. Getting? So the address of my first word is 0, the address of my second word is 4, the address of my next word will be 8, 9, 10, 10 and 11. So the next address will be 8. Next address will be 8. So my addresses will be like 0, 4, 8. So again, you note down that addresses are actually byte addressable address. So therefore, every time the next address is not 0, 1, 2, but it is incrementing by 4. It is incrementing by 4. So again, this applies to program counter also. When I say that program counter is incremented by 1, but actually the addresses are actually it is getting incremented by plus 4. Why it is incrementing by plus 4? Because we are assuming that my addresses are byte addresses. My addresses are byte addresses, and here I am assuming that my word length is of 32 bits. So how many bytes I will have? I will have 4 bytes. So every time when I say p, program counter is incremented by 1, but it is actually incremented by 4. We will see this instruction and instruction execution later. We will directly start with the instruction formats, which is very very important. Always a question based on this topic will be there in GATE based on instruction format. Any doubt till now? You can ask or you can put your question in chat box if you have any question till now. Now we'll starting with the important topic. So we have covered the fundamentals. So now we'll discuss the important topic, instruction formats. How many types of instructions totally we have? So totally we have four types of instructions. Totally we have four types of instruction. Three address instruction, two address instruction, one address instruction, and zero address instruction. What does three address instruction says? A three address instruction is having the syntax of that we will have an opcode, we will have a source, we will have a second source, and we will have a destination. So that means we will be having two sources and we will have destination. Two address instruction will have opcode, source, and destination. One address instruction will have opcode and one operand, whereas in zero address instruction we will have no operand. We will have no operand. In case of three address instruction, we are having three operands. In case of two address instruction, we are having two operands. In case of one address instruction, we are having one operand. And in case of zero address instruction, we will not have any operand. So what happens? If example, if I want to perform addition of two numbers C, A plus B, this instruction can be written in three address instruction as add A comma B comma C. This instruction is written as A comma B comma C. So how what it will do? It will add the content of A and B and it will store the result in C, where C is my destination. Where C is my destination operand and A and B are my source operand. Next is add A comma B. Add A comma B will add the content of A and B and it will store the result in B. But what I want that result should be placed in C. So I will have two instructions. First I will shift the content of B to C and then I will have add A comma C. Whereas in case of one address instruction, there is one register which is always there, that is accumulator. It will always make use of a one special register, that is accumulator. It will make use of the special register, that is accumulator. So if I am having load A, this means load the value from A, that is memory location A, and load this value where in the accumulator. So first of all, this load A will do what? It will load the value of A into, it will load the value of A accumulator accumulator. Next, add B will do what? It will add the content of accumulator with B, and again it will store the result back in B. And store C means what? The data will be transferred from accumulator, it will give it to C. Whereas in case of zero address instruction, we have no source and destination, but here the one who is responsible for performing all the operation is stack operation. So we have top of the stack, we have push instruction, we have pop up instruction. In case of zero address instruction, we have stack, which will be acting as the important factor. So let's again see what is instruction format. Every instruction is actually divided into two parts. Number one is the opcode part. And the next is the operand part. What is opcode? Opcode specifies the operation. Opcode is nothing but the operation code. For example, if I write add A comma B, if I have an instruction add A comma B, so here add is the opcode. In this example, add is the opcode and A and B are the operands, or the addresses on which this instruction will get executed. So instruction format, my instruction will always have two parts, Number first part, it is basically divided into two parts. Number one part is opcode part, and another part is operand part. Now here in this case, I am having two operands. So it is how many? It is which type of instruction? If I'm having two operands, then it is two address instruction. It is two address instruction. I can have one more. I can have another operand. That means here I have total, in this here I am having total three operands, one opcode, and how many operands? We are having three operands. So such a type of instruction which is having three operands, it is called as three address instruction. Is called as three address instruction. So note it down that every time our instruction will have two parts, opcode and operands. So we'll see some of the questions on instruction formats. So we'll discuss some of the questions on instruction format. Everyone, please have your notebook with yourself. So the very first instruction says that a machine has 24-bit instruction format. It has 32 registers, each of which is 32-bit long. It needs to support 49 instructions. Each instruction has two register operands and one immediate operand. If the immediate operand is signed integer, then what is the minimum value of immediate operand is? So first of all, we'll read the instruction. We'll read the question. What question says that a machine has 24-bit instruction format? So we know that once we got any after reading the instruction, first of all, draw the instruction format. Whatever instruction format says, that instruction is divided into parts. Number one will be, definitely there will be opcode. So this is my opcode, and what is the length of that instruction format? Length of that instruction format is 24-bit. So that means this entire instruction, the bits required to represent the entire instruction is actually 24-bit. Bits required to represent this entire is instruction is 24-bit. So this entire instruction is of 24-bit. We don't know how many bits are required for opcode and how many bits are required for register. Now what it says again, it has 32 registers, each of which is 32-bit long. Again, it needs to support 49 instruction, and each instruction has two register operand. So now it is specifying that how many operands it will have. It is saying that it will have two register operand, that my instruction will have two register operand. So I will have one operand, that is register 1. I will have another operand, that is register 2. Register 2. Along with that, what it is saying? It is saying that each instruction has two register operand and one immediate operand. So this is my immediate operand. Immediate operand. So according to the question, the processor is having two register and one immediate operand, and along with that it is having opcode. and the total length of my instruction is 24 bit. Is 24 bit. This all is given in the instruction itself. Now again, what it is saying? It is saying that my instruction totally supports how many instruction? How many instruction? 49 instruction. That means total how many opcode I will have? I need total number of opcode as 49. If I say that there are 49 instruction, so total how many opcode? Let's say we have add is one opcode, then sub is one opcode. So this is one instruction one, this is instruction two. So this, the example given in this is totally supporting how many instruction? It is totally supporting 49 instruction. Is totally supporting 49 instruction. So if we have total, if the total is given every time, if the total number is given, and if we need to calculate that how many bits it will require, then we will calculate it by log 2 of that number. So we'll have log 2 of 49. We'll have log 2 of 49. So how many bits it will need? 49 means what? 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, then we have 32, then we have 64. So 32 will be smaller number. So total number of bits that I will need will be 6 bits. 6 bits. How come 6 bits? Let's again come to this solution part. To accommodate total 49 instruction, we need 69 bits. 49 इंस्ट्रक्शन को रिप्रेजेंट करने के लिए मुझे कितने बिट्स लगेंगे? 6 बिट्स लगेंगे. कैसे? अगेन 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32 and 64. 64. So 32 will be a smaller number. We cannot accommodate 49 over there. So we will have 64. So we will have total, we will need total 6 bits. We will need total 6 bits. 64 will be a greater number, so we will have this total 6 bits. Next we have 32 registers. We have 32 registers. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my instruction will be accommodated. My instruction will be accommodated in these bits, that is 6 bit. When it comes to, so we have come to the conclusion that opcode will totally need 6 bit, and we have total how many bits? 24 bit instruction. Now again we know that in the question what is given? Question, it is given that there are total, it has total 32 registers. So again we know, if we know the total number of registers, then how many bits it will needed? I can calculate it by using log 2 of 32. So how can I have 32 bits written? How can I write it? With the help of how many bits? I can make use of 5 bits. That is 1, 2, 4, 8 and 16. And totally we will need total 5 bits I will need to represent these 32 bits. Getting? So each register, that means register 1 will also need, since register 1 will need how many is of 32 bits, so it will again need 5 bits. Register 2 will also need, again it is of the same, so register 2 will also need 5 bits. Register 2 will also need how many bits? 5 bits. So we have got the number of bits for opcode, we have got the number of bits for register 1, we have got the number of bits for register 2. Can we calculate the number of bits required for immediate operand? Yes, it is easy. How can I calculate it? I can calculate it by 24 minus 6 plus 5 plus 5. So this will generate total 8 bits. Total 8 bits. So we got the opcode is of 6 bit, we got the register 1 is of 5 bit, we got the register 2, we got this is register 2, this we got the register 2 is of 5 bits, and the number of bits required for immediate operand is now calculated as 8 bit. But the question is different. What was the question? The question was, if the if the immediate operand is signed integer, then the minimum value of immediate operand is. This is the question. So again we know, if we have a, if we know the number of bits, I can calculate how many total are there. How can I calculate it? By writing 2 raised to power 8. By writing 2 raised to power 8 means 256. 256 means from 0 to 256, 255, from 0 to 255. But question is that my immediate operand is a signed integer. Signed integer means I am not having here 0 to 250 means here I am considering that all are positive. Here I am considering all are positive. But the question itself says that it is having positive as well as negative. So how many it can accommodate? It can accommodate minus 128 to plus 127. It can have the values minus 128 to 127. But the question is, what is the least value, the minimum value that we can store? The minimum value that we can store is minus 128. Hence the solution is, minus 128 is the solution. So this is the very first problem that we have discussed. This question came for, 2 marks, or it can also, since it is not having any option, so it can be also asked for, um, it can, if it is having option, then it is having option, therefore it has asked for 1 mark. If it is not having any option, then this can be asked for 1 mark also. Now let's try to solve the another example. Depending on the same instruction format. So we will discuss one previous gate question. We'll discuss the another question here. So this question was asked in GATE CSE 2016. A processor has 40 distinct instruction and 24 general purpose registers. 40 distinct register and 24 general purpose registers. 32-bit instruction word has an opcode, 2 register, operand and an immediate operand. The number of bits for the available for the immediate operand field is dash. So again this question was for 2 marks. This question was asked in GATE 2016 for 2 marks. So again we will see. Read the question. Processor has 40 distinct instruction and 24 general purpose register. A 32-bit instruction word has an opcode. So let's draw the figure. This is my instruction. Instruction will have, definitely it will have the opcode. So here I am writing the opcode. Now next, So what a 32-bit instruction word? That means this complete instruction is of 32 bit, is of 32 bit. This complete instruction is of 32 bit. Next, what it says, that it has an opcode. It has an opcode. It has two register operand. Two register operand. So we will have one operand and we will have another operand. Two register operand means this is register 1 and this is register 2. So these are the two register operand. Along with that, we have an immediate operand. So here is our immediate operand. Here is our immediate operand. That means a constant value. So once you got the question, first of all, draw such kind of diagram and denote it. Draw such kind of diagram and denote it with all the values. So we have opcode, we have R1, R2, and we have immediate operand. Now what the next says, that a processor has 40 distinct instruction. A processor has how many distinct or different types of instruction? We have 40 distinct instruction. 40 distinct instruction. So how can we accommodate if we have number of instruction? So that means number of instruction depends upon opcode. So we from this we can, it has 40 distinct instruction, we can calculate the opcode as log 2 of 40. We can calculate log 2 of 40. So how many bits? Depending upon 40, we can calculate the number of bits as total number of bits required will be 6. How? See again, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and 64. So where I can accommodate 40, I can accommodate this 40 number can be accommodated. How many bits will be required to represent this 40? The number will be this 32. The number of bits required will be this one. Next, this, 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 and this one. So how many bits? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So 64 is greater than 40. So this is of no use. Now how many bits are there? Total 6 bits. So to represent 40, we will need total 6 bits. 40 instruction को लिखिए multiple लगेंगे से opcode we will have 6. To write the opcode we will have 6. Next, the next thing says that it has two registers where the number of registers are total. How many registers? We have total 24 general purpose registers. So the general purpose, when it comes to registers, there are 24 registers. How will you represent 20 in how many bits can be used to represent 24? So again write 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, and 32. But this 32 will be is greater than 24. So how many bits we will need? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So to represent the register, we will totally need total number of bits will be 5. For R1 we will need 5, and for R2 also we will need 5. So can you calculate the bits for immediate operand now? Yes, that is 32. 32 minus 6 plus 5 plus 5. So that will be total 32 minus 16. 32 minus 16, that means what is the answer? So total we will have 16 bits. 32 minus 16. So for immediate operand, we will totally need 16 bits. We will totally need 16 bits. So here the solution, we got the solution. The number of bits available for the immediate operand field is 16 bit. In this type of question, we have to enter the end result directly. We have to enter the result. There will be no options, and you can see that it is very easy to solve. So again, you can solve the next question. The next question is asked in GATE CSE 2014. A machine has 32-bit architecture with one long instruction. It has 64 registers, each of which is 32-bit long. It needs to support 45 instructions, which has an immediate operand in addition to two register operand. Assuming that immediate operand is unsigned integer, what is the maximum value of immediate operand? Again, this question was asked in 2014. It is similar to the question that we have discussed here. It is similar to this question. So consider this as a homework question. Note down this question and try to solve this. This question came for 2 marks in GATE 2014. Write it as homework. So here we have taken some of the examples based on instruction format. I have taken the example on instruction format also. In next class, we will see addressing mode. We will discuss some of the problems on addressing mode also. If you have any doubt, you can ask me. While coming to the next class, you have to come with the solution for this question. Anybody having doubt? Okay, so here we will end our lecture. Yes, you will get the video of this lecture. We have recorded it. These questions are important. So again, we have another questions also. So you can try to solve it. So here we will end the lecture. Thank you everyone for attending it.